Good morning. I trust everybody had a great weekend. At the Perez's, we spent some time preparing for Thanksgiving. Yes, it's that time of the year, and got a word yesterday that we have my daughter's roommate from Australia who's going to be joining us, and we'll be participating in her very first American Thanksgiving dinner. So we're looking forward to having her with us. I also have some family, like many of us, that are coming into town for the holidays. Before I turn it over to Sheila, I want to remind you all to make sure you're planning on taking time away so that you're spending time with your families. If you haven't already done so, please do so today. Without further ado, Sheila.
Hi, I'm Sheila Hinton, Executive Director at the Claremont County YMCA. Thanks for having me as part of your Monday morning huddle. The YMCA is serving more and more children with special needs. We see this in our summer day camp, before and after school, early learning, sports, and aquatics programs. I know our Family Life team is working on providing partnerships and resources to better equip our staff to provide quality care to children with special needs. But today I want to talk about the family needs. What's the big deal? Nationally, 23% of our families have a child with one or more disabilities. These families will spend an extra 30 to 80 hours a week in care alone for a child with special needs. According to the National Respite Coalition Task Force, nearly half of parents report that they have more caregiving responsibilities than they can handle. And a majority of them report that they're suffering from physical fatigue, emotional stress, and emotional upset or guilt, some or most of the time. Respite care is a solution, and it's often the most frequently requested need from families with children with special needs. Respite is a preventative strategy that will strengthen the family, protect their health and well-being. It will allow those children to stay in their homes. It reduces the risk of abuse and neglect, and will help all family members feel safe and stable. Respite provides families with rest and relaxation. It improves the ability to cope with daily responsibility and helps preserve the family unit by decreasing pressures that might lead to divorce, abuse, or neglect. So what is respite care? It's a parents' night out designed to give the caretakers a break. Eligible children and their siblings are dropped off at a parents' night out for 2 to 3 hours of fun and are paired with volunteer buddies who spend quality time with them. Some activities would include gym time, arts and crafts, and games. Meals and activities are free. Currently, there are monthly respite nights out provided in 3 locations in Butler County and at the Countryside YMCA in Warren County. The Claremont YMCA is planning our first respite event. It's a partnership with the Claremont YMCA, Claremont DD Services, Claremont Kids and Family First, and 4C. We've scheduled it for Saturday, December 8th from 6:30 to 9, and it is a volunteer-driven model. So my ask today is that I'm hoping that our staff, friends, and families will volunteer for our first respite event. Hopefully it's something that's successful and will spread throughout Cincinnati and Hamilton County. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. It's a great reminder about how the YMCAs all meet the unique needs of their communities, and what a great example of a partnership and addressing a very specific need. For those of you that understand the struggles of families with special needs children, you know how important these kinds of moments of relief are to them. You know, it's Veterans Day. On the drive-in, the traffic was a little light, and I had to remember that it's directly related to the honoring of our men and women in uniform, those that have served in the past and those that are serving today. Before going any further, I'd like to just acknowledge those of us who have served in the military. If you have made that part of your journey, life's journey, Thank you so much for your service. The country and its citizens owe you a debt of gratitude. I got an opportunity as I was traveling over the weekend to see how airports were responding to veterans throughout my travels, including people buying the veterans or individuals in uniform meals, paying for their drinks, and even watching them get on the airplanes before anybody else. I know that this has happened. I didn't actually witness this, but I've watched other individuals give up their first class seats for those men and women that served in uniform. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. Over the weekend, I heard that the president was in France, and the country was memorializing the liberation of that country during World War II, when thousands of young men stormed the beaches at Normandy to free the people there in Europe. And I know there were many allies working together to make that possible, but you cannot ignore the contribution of the United States and its soldiers. And as I was thinking about the commitment that individuals have for their fellow man, I was reminded of some words that Jesus shared with his friends about sacrifice. And we forget that individuals have been called to serve in many ways. And Jesus uttered these words: "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friend." Now, this passage is actually very familiar to many of us, but the context is an odd context. Jesus has just been talking to his friends about how they should be connected to their community, how they should be connected to God, and use things like, "I am the true vine and you are the branches." And so there's this interaction that's going back and forth. Then he starts talking about love, and then he says these words. And I have to believe that his friends were caught off guard, because up to this point, it's just about community. It's about how we hang together and how we grow together. And then he says these words, that you are to lay down your life for your friend. And so I looked up the words in the Greek. This is what I was taught to do when I was going to seminary. And the phrase "to lay down one's life" is not a phrase that denotes a sacrifice, a giving up of your life for somebody else. I think it can mean that, but it doesn't. The words, the way they're constructed, have a broader meaning than that. It could also mean to give your life for another, to give your life's purpose for somebody else. And I think it still is a profound idea that we are called to love one another as we engage in community with each other, and that we do so by saying, "I am going to devote a significant amount of my time and energy in helping my fellow man." And Jesus says there is no greater love than that. That if you want to self-actualize at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of need, if you want to get to the point where you're saying, "I know my life's purpose," that the way you do that is by putting your life in service to somebody else, by giving yourself up in service of some greater cause. And I think that's why Jesus said this. So he's talking about community, and he said if you want to be part of the community, you have to be connected. And oh, by the way, as a member of that community, you should be connected in such a way that you aspire to the greatest demonstration of love. That you lay your life down for your friends, that you give your life and purpose of others. So our military men and women do that when they sign up and they say, I want to have purpose, I want to serve. But I also think that there's another group of soldiers that make that decision every day, and those are the people that work in nonprofits and in churches. They are at Habitat for Humanity, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, their local churches, deciding that they want to serve their fellow man. They give up their lives on behalf of somebody else, and therefore reaching that pinnacle of love demonstrated. And so this week, let's look for opportunities to encourage individuals who have decided that they wanted to make their life's purpose a demonstration of love. That could include many of us here at the YMCA, but I want to warn us that we don't simply take our work as equal to a laying down of somebody's life. The fact that you work at the Y does not necessarily mean that you're cause-driven. That means that we should be crystal clear about why my job matters. Why do I do what I do? And that I make extra efforts to really hone in on why I do this and tie my everyday activities to that cause. So if you're about kids and you answer the phones, understand how your work every day makes it possible for us to serve kids better. If you're about seniors and their needs, think about how the way you pay the bills or clean the floors and what impact we have on the lives of individuals. But I think if we don't make those connections, then this laying down of one's life for our friends does not take place. Secondly, let's encourage those that have obviously done that, those individuals that serve every single day in our YMCAs, maybe even in other organizations. As we interact with them, let's thank them. Just like we thanked our veterans today, let's thank those individuals, those servicemen and women who serve in all types of different ways and actively make a decision to lay down their lives, to give their lives in service to their fellow man. I met a kid who was a newly minted soldier along the airport, and I sat down with him and asked if I could visit with him, and bought him a cup of coffee. And he told me he was the first in his family to go to serve in the military, and that at some point I asked him why he decided to join, and he said it's because I want to do something. I want to mean something to somebody, and that's why I am serving. And what a great example of what it means to be engaged in this idea of laying down your life for your friend. So again, let's look for ways to connect our work with our cause, and let's make sure that we're encouraging individuals who every day lay their lives for their friends. Let me pray for us. God, thank you so much for the opportunity that you give us to be about a cause, to be about an organization that encourages us to lay our lives down for our friends, that we lean our lives in the direction of serving others. Thank you for those individuals that are in this room who serve every day in YMCAs around Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, around the country, and around the world. Amen. Thanks, everybody.